Once a month, when the moon reaches its highest point in the sky and the wild creatures call out to the night, he emerges from a private sanctuary in an undisclosed location outside of Little Rock, Arkansas. Arrayed in his priestly vestments, carrying forth the good news that comic books and graphic novels aren't just for kids, that they aren't just mass and spandex superheroes, that storytelling in a graphic format can be so much more. He is the Graphic Novel Apostle.
Hello, and welcome back to the Graphic Novel Apostle podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ohrenberger. I'm so happy to be here with you this Monday morning, as always. I gotta tell you, I did not love being away last week. We had a show all lined up and ended up, unfortunately, not getting to publish it for you. And frankly, I think I did myself in, where at the end of the last episode, I said that we would be back with my buddy Will Hogg to talk about American Vampire Volume 1. And of course, it hadn't yet been recorded, although we had our recording time scheduled. Will came over, we recorded a great conversation, we had a blast, and then I sat down to edit it and discovered that I only had about 3 minutes of usable audio. I think the SD card that we were recording to warped. And so I want to say first, thank you so much to Will for coming over and having that great conversation with me. And also, man, I am so sorry that we did that and it did not work out. I plan to extend a lifeline to my buddy Travell to see if there's any way he can save that audio for us, although I'm a little afraid that it won't be something that we can retrieve. So unfortunately, we didn't get to deliver a show to you last week. Also, over the course of the week, I've been thinking quite a bit about the format of this show. I really like the format that we have right now, where every other week we have what we call our full episodes, where I bring one of my friends on who doesn't read comics, and we read a comic that I had picked out for them. And then on the in-between weeks, we do these mini-type episodes where I'll talk to a comic book creator in the independent comic space, or talk about a couple of books off my pull list that I'm reading right now and I think are worthy of being highlighted. Unfortunately, that schedule is just killing me. And so I think I'm going to need to change things up just a little bit. So here's what I'm planning to do going forward. You've probably seen by now from the title of this episode that it is Batman The Long Halloween #1. And what I plan to do is 1 week out of the month, we will do mini episodes in a ongoing series. So this week we're going to kick off a series on Batman The Long Halloween. We'll do 1 issue each month during that week. And that series went for 13 issues, so this will go on for 13 months. Another week out of the month, we'll do one of these regular mini episodes that I do where either we talk to a writer or an artist of an independent comic, or I highlight a couple of books off my pull list that we might or might not ever do in long format on this show. And then once a month, we'll do a full episode where I bring on one of my non-comic book reading friends, and we'll go over either an original graphic novel or a comic collection that I have curated for them. And that really is the bread and butter of this show. It's just between scheduling, doing those long recordings, preparing for something that's 4 to 6 issues of comics long, really takes a lot, especially in the editing process. If there were more hours in the day, we'd do one of those every single week. And then once a month, we'll probably end up taking a bye week. We may drop in a bonus episode here or there, but I think that's going to be the new format for the show. And for those of you who are newer listeners, I want to let you know where you can reach me. You can find me on Instagram at Graphic Novel Apostle. We always put up some images from the comics that we review on the show to give you samples of the art. Sometimes it's pages that we specifically discuss on the show. Sometimes it's just pages that I think are good, solid representations of the art that you see in the book that we discuss. You can find me on email, graphicnovelapostle@gmail.com. And I'm also over on Twitter at Mark Ohrenberger. My name is spelled out in the show notes, so you can take a look there if you need it. And then, if you like what we're doing here, I would encourage you to give us a star rating or review on whatever podcast platform you use to listen to your podcasts. As much fun as I'm having doing the show, and the audience is growing, it's growing slowly. And that's fine, I accept that, but I'd really like more people to get to find the show. And so the more reviews and star ratings we have, that bumps us up, I understand, in the algorithms a little bit, and so more people might see us as a recommendation. Before we discuss The Long Halloween, I want to talk a little bit about some comic book creator experiences I have had in the last week and am getting ready to have in the next few hours that I'm so excited about. So I am recording this episode on Saturday morning, October the 26th, when I'm done recording, I'm going to pack up a bag and get in my car and head out to the Memphis Comic Expo. I have had this convention on my calendar for at least 6 months, whatever it was the first time that they announced the dates that it would be this year. I put that on my calendar, made arrangements with my in-laws to keep Garrett for the weekend. Unfortunately, Natalie has to work this weekend, but once I finish up recording here, I'm going to make that 2-hour drive over to Memphis, and I cannot wait to get there. I spent last evening packing up all the books that I've identified that I have already from creators who will be there that I want to get signed. I've thought about a couple of books that I just want to talk to some of these creators about, and I don't want to go into too much of what my expectations are for this weekend just yet, because I want to talk to you about that next week after I've actually had that experience. But let me tell you about last Saturday. I drove to a comic book shop that I had never been to before. It's called Gabe's Cave in El Dorado, Arkansas. It's about 2 hours from where I am in the Little Rock area. But I went down there because Tony Fleece and Tone Rodriguez, who are the creative team working on Feral, Stray Dogs, also Tony Fleece is doing Uncanny Valley. We're going to be in the shop for a signing, and that was a fantastic experience. Let me say first, El Dorado, Arkansas is sort of the big town in that part of South Arkansas, but it is not a big city. And nonetheless, Gabe's Cave is a fantastic comic shop with all kinds of stuff. You may have already seen Gabe's Cave from their YouTube show, and the guys who run that shop were nice enough to give me a little tour around, so I got to see the set where they record their show. I got to see all the cool comics they have, all the cool memorabilia, but also the building itself has all these little weird ins and outs and little rooms tucked in places where you might not expect them, where they've got cool memorabilia placed everywhere. It was just a neat place to be. And I'll put up the link in the show notes to their website. They do a lot of exclusive variant covers that I thought were pretty cool looking. I picked up a few of them myself, and I would encourage you to check out what they've got going on. But then Tony Fleece and Tone Rodriguez, man, these guys were great. They hung out. I guess I spent about an hour and a half in the shop altogether. I probably spent, 30 minutes talking to those guys, and they were wonderful. They signed all my books for me. I also got them, and you guys might have seen this already. I put a picture of it up on my Instagram account already, but they had a blank variant cover of Stray Dogs, Dog Days #1, and each of those creators, just right there in the shop, drew on one half of the cover. One of them drew the face of one dog, and one of them drew the face of the other dog, and they kind of had them mashed together. And it was just such a cool thing to take away from that. Those guys are on a nationwide tour right now, going around to different comic shops. I hope they have so much success, sell a bazillion books, and get to meet so many fans on that journey. Okay, let's talk about Batman: The Long Halloween. First, the credits for this book. It was written by Jeph Loeb, art was done by Tim Sale, colors by Gregory Wright, and letters by Richard Starkings and Comicraft. This is a superhero noir series. It's a mystery. It is Batman as a detective, and he's tracking down a killer who kills monthly on holidays. So whatever holiday shows up in that month, that's the day that killer is going to strike. Their identity is unknown. Of course, so often Batman's rogues will make very plain who they are, who are killing people in Gotham City, but not this time, and so we've got a mystery to solve. There are 13 total issues in this series. It ran from October of 1996 to October of 1997 when it was first being published, and thus The Long Halloween. We're going to go from Halloween to Halloween. There have been a couple of sequels that have spun out of this comic as well, probably the best known being Dark Victory, but also DC Comics is doing one right now that just started in the month of September. It's called Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween. It's written by Jeph Loeb, who of course wrote the original series. Now there are a bunch of new artists who are going to be doing the individual issues in this series because unfortunately artist Tim Sale passed away in 2022, and his art is such a cool part of this series as we go through it. You'll see in the different pages and panels we put up on our Instagram account. This is Batman with super long ears. Tim Sale is a master of capturing that noir feeling with all of the shadow work that he does. We get a lot of heavy contrast between light in a room and dark shadows that cover either Batman or some of the more sinister characters. Really neat to see. But this new series is being done with just a host of top artists. The first issue that came out last month, which, by the way, I have not read, but the art was done by Eduardo Risso, a wonderful comics artist, and also a really great guy that I met at Planet Comic-Con earlier this year in Kansas City. Eduardo Risso did a book that we will absolutely cover on this show called Moonshine, along with his frequent collaborator Brian Azzarello. Moonshine #1 is probably my favorite cover in all of comics, and so I'm sure his art on this book is going to be great. And then the second issue that comes out actually this week, I believe, is Klaus Janson, a well-known and super talented comic artist. I'm sure this will be a great series, and I think it's going to do honor to the memory of Tim Sale. At least I certainly hope so. So let's talk about issue 1, the first month in our long Halloween. This book opens at the wedding of Johnny Vito. He's the nephew of Carmine the Roman Falcone, and this wedding scene really gives us an opportunity to just have a great introduction to our cast of characters. So first, let's talk about the Roman, Carmine Falcone. He is the head crime boss of Gotham City. If you guys watched the television show Gotham, he was a big player in that series as well, as was one of his rival mob bosses, Salvatore the Boss Maroni, who's also here at the wedding. In this case, it seems like Maroni is a rival crime boss, but also sometimes some criminals got to work together once in a while, and it looks like they're in on some money laundering together, that is Falcone and Maroni. Also at the wedding, we have Carla Vitti. Carla is Carmine Falcone's sister. She is also a sometimes cooperative but rival gangster. Now, she doesn't operate out of Gotham. She's out of Chicago, but she's going to be hanging out here in Gotham some. And then Johnny Vitti, the groom in this wedding. That's Carla's son, Falcone's nephew, of course, and he's also a muscle for the crime family. When there's shooting that needs to be done, you call in Johnny Vitti. We also learn that there's some bad blood boiling between these families that's just been covered over and maybe not so deeply covered over. In fact, the earliest pages tell us that not too long before this episode, Carmine Falcone had actually paid a hitman to bump off Johnny Vitti, but those plans had gone astray, and so the family had worked together to kind of patch things up for just a little bit. We'll see if that alliance holds. Next, we have Alberto Falcone. This is a skinny, greasy, kind of creepy guy who is the son of Carmine Falcone, and it's pretty clear that Carmine does not want his son Alberto in the family business. Alberto is a Harvard MBA, he's a Rhodes Scholar, so obviously he's a very brilliant guy, and I think Carmine thinks, sure, he's got a good head for business, but not really up to the task of getting his hands dirty in crime like this. But Alberto wants in, and he wants to show his dad that he can be a player. That'll be a fun character to follow. Also at this wedding, we've got some of the moneyed and power people in Gotham City, including Bruce Wayne. Of course, we all know Bruce Wayne as Batman, the billionaire. Selina Kyle, who we know as the Catwoman, is also there at this wedding. She seems to be kind of a socialite. We're not really told exactly what her position is in Gotham City. And outside of the wedding, while all the festivities are going on at this wedding reception, I guess, Harvey Dent, the elected DA, who has not yet become Two-Face, is outside in the parking lot, and he's taking down license plates of all the guests who are there because he is on this mission to take down Carmine Falcone, who he obviously knows is the boss of crime in the city, but he hasn't been able to pin anything on. A couple of interesting plot points that we get at this wedding. First, we learn that the Roman is making some inroads to do business, and by doing business I really mean launder money, through the Gotham City Bank. And he wants the approval from Bruce Wayne, who is on the board of directors and carries quite a bit of sway. We learn that the Roman, Falcone, has at least already turned the president and CEO of the bank, who's the chair of the board. And so he maybe can get what he wants even without Bruce Wayne, but he has this sort of private off-to-the-side meeting with Wayne. Think of that opening scene in The Godfather where Don Corleone is sitting in his office while the wedding festivities are going on outside and he's receiving individuals to come and make their requests to him. Here, Falcone has called Bruce Wayne into his office and he's trying to convince him to do business with Falcone's business. And Bruce Wayne rejects this. He says, "There is no way I'm going to allow Gotham City Bank to do business with your corrupt organization." Something else we'll see at this wedding? Out on the dance floor, Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle, who do not know each other's secret identities at this point, have an obvious attraction to one another. They dance together. It's clear that Bruce is really taken in by Selina, and Selina seems to be with Bruce as well. Now, separately, after Bruce and Selina have departed the wedding and each gone their separate ways, Batman and Catwoman individually sneak back into the office while the wedding party is going on outside. Of course, the Roman's not in there anymore. He's out with his family now. Catwoman is in there because she wants to steal the jewels out of the safe in Falcone's office. Batman is in there because he's got a different mission. He also wants to break into that safe, but he wants to get the secret ledger where Falcone records all of his payoffs to people around the city. We get a cool scene where Batman is chasing Catwoman across the city, leaping building to building, as we so often see those two characters do. In another scene, we see Commissioner Gordon, or I guess I should say the man we know is Commissioner Gordon. At this point, he is just Captain Gordon. This is really early in Batman's career, by the way. From what I've read about this series, it's supposed to immediately follow up on a Frank Miller series called Batman Year One. So think about this as Batman's still kind of figuring out what it means for him to be the crime fighter and Dark Knight detective protector of Gotham City. But we're at least far enough along that we know that Captain Gordon and Batman already know each other, the bat signal already exists, and Gordon puts up the bat signal. Batman shows up on the roof of the police department like they do so many times in all the different media that we see. And this is actually going to be the first opportunity for Captain Gordon to introduce Batman to Harvey Dent. All three of them have a meeting here where they talk about the need to bring down the Roman, and they all agree that they're going to work together to do it. Now, we see at this point that they all have different lines that they feel like they have to draw in the sand. Captain Gordon really wants to play this whole thing clean. Harvey Dent is so driven by his desire to get Falcone behind bars that it seems like he's going to be willing to at least bend the rules a little bit. And Batman feels kind of ruthless at this point, and it feels like he's willing to do about anything to get Carmine Falcone off the streets. But the three of them agree that they are going to play this by the rules at least as much as they can. Now, Batman does one of his famous disappearing acts, but he leaves behind for them Carmine Falcone's ledger of all the payoffs that he's done, so Dent and Gordon have that now. Later, we're going to see that Batman sneaks into the penthouse apartment of that chairman of the board, CEO, president of Gotham City Bank, and scares him so bad about the prospect of doing business with Carmine Falcone that this guy actually resigns from the board, and he's planning to leave town. But before he can, Carmine Falcone, feeling like he needs to send a message to anybody else who has taken a payoff and then turned their back on him, Falcone sends Johnny Vitti, who shoots down this guy in the street. Following that, we get this totally disconnected scene. It's just one page, and it's all in black and white. There's an unseen figure, and he's handling a gun, and he's got tape wrapped around the grip. He's got a clamp on a workbench and a file, and he's filing off the serial number. And then, finally, he's got the nipple from a baby bottle, and he's fitting it over the top of the gun where he's going to use it as a makeshift silencer. Now, over the next couple of pages, we go back to full color, and we go to these sort of domestic scenes at Captain Gordon's house and at Harvey Dent's house, where we get some clues that are going to at least make us scratch our head. Gordon is there, and he's washing dishes in his house, and his wife is standing next to him, and she's holding a baby. And sure enough, among the dishes that he's washing, he's got some baby bottle nipples as well that he's cleaning out. We flash over to Harvey Dent's house, and Dent's wife comes down to the basement where he's at this workbench where he's got a clamp and some different tools, and he's down there doing some kind of project. We don't know exactly what it is, but it certainly reminds us of something from that black and white scene. Now finally, we go to Halloween night in Gotham City. We get another one of these black and white scenes. Johnny Vito is sitting in a bathtub relaxing, and we see the door to his bathroom start to open just a little bit, a hand reach through with that gun that had the baby bottle nipple over the top and the wrapping on the handle, and this unseen figure fires the gun 2 shots into the head of Johnny Vito. And on the last page in this scene, instead of black and white, it's black, white, and red. And we see Johnny Vito's bathtub just filled with red blood, and it's spilling out onto the floor. And then on the floor, we see a couple of items. The gun is left behind, 2 shell casings, a baby bottle nipple, and a jack-o'-lantern to represent Halloween. Now, things are happening elsewhere in Gotham this same night. Catwoman has given Batman some information on where he can find a warehouse that's filled with all of this dirty money in cash that Falcone and Maroni and whatever other gangsters have been waiting to launder, probably Carla Vitti as well. And you may remember this scene with the Joker from the Christopher Nolan movies, where the Joker goes into that room that's all full of all the cash that the other bad guys have, and he lights it on fire. Well, sure enough, Batman and Harvey Dent find this warehouse, they find all the cash, they cover it in gasoline, and they set the whole thing ablaze. Dent goes home from there, and he's walking up the path to the front door of his house. He's passing some kids who are coming away from the door in their Halloween costumes. His wife has just been handing out trick-or-treats to those kids. She tells Dent that a package had arrived for him about an hour before. Dent opens this package, and the house explodes. And that's the last thing that we see in issue number 1. So we'll come back next month and revisit Batman The Long Halloween, issue 2. It'll be the month of November, and so it'll be Thanksgiving time. And we will have another killing, and we will have more mystery to solve. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the episode today. I love that you all check this show out. I do have such a good time doing it. I look forward to seeing you back here next week. And until then, keep reading those comics.